I'm Michelle Graves, your host on today's segment of The Power of Money. I'm glad to have you here. Now, at The Power of Money, we are interested in three things happening. First, we want you to get the necessary education so that you and your family can make the decisions that will impact positively on you in your financial life. The second thing is that you be empowered to prosper. I only want the best for you. And you can only get that if you have education and then the drive to make it happen. And the third thing that is so important to me is that you recognize that life is more than a journey and that you be energized so that you can begin to participate in the truly joyous experience of living. So, here's to empowerment, here's to education, and here's to energy. I'm Michelle Graves, your host, Power of Money, and here we go. And welcome to today's segment of The Power of Money. I'm your host, Michelle Graves, and I'm glad to be here with you today as a part of my continuing commitment to open up the world of money and to educate and empower you and your families for these most difficult and treacherous times which we are facing today. And I say this having been in the industry for 40 years. This is my life. The area of money, money management, investments, insurance, banking, real estate, bitcoins, all of the above, currency, disintermediation, currency exchanges. 40 years, you learn a lot. I've been extraordinarily blessed for all of this time, having been in many situations, the only female, the only African American, and nonetheless, the color of money is green, people, green. And so I tell folks, if you are wise, you will listen attentively and govern yourselves accordingly. Today, I'm going to continue to talk about the road to financial success. I have been doing seminars for many, many years, but the last year, I began to really focus in on smaller group situations where a family might want me to come in and teach them everything for a day for a set price, or churches, which I'm pleased to say has been going extraordinarily successful. I am currently doing a 7-part seminar on 7 keys to financially stress-free life at Lee Chapel AME in Cincinnati, Ohio on Wednesday evenings. We're wrapping up. We've got 2 more sessions coming up, and we will be completed with that. It has been a joy to my heart to see people who knew very little about my industry actually ask questions, go back and forth with me about different things. And I'm excited because it is the impartation of information into families that can change lives. It is the impartation of financial information to really change the game board. And I personally feel that after 40 years of doing this and going to college and all of the above and being out here, that the emphasis in this society is stretched way over the line with money at the expense of families, at the expense of mental health and stability. Money is strictly a conduit, ladies and gentlemen. It's not a be-all and an end-all. I don't care what you've been taught, how you've been trained. The most important thing you bring to the planet Earth is your ability to be in a family unit where people are loving you unconditionally and supporting and encouraging you, and where you have adequate financial information, which has been restricted to a certain segment of our society. And that segment was wealthy, white men. Yeah, I said it, and you all know it's the truth. Everybody else is scrapping, trying to make it happen. And I'm saying to you, we are in a changing of the guard. people are waking up and they're recognizing that I cannot sleep through this. I have to have the information that's going to change the life of me and my family. And that's exactly what I wanted when I started doing these shows in the late 70s. Do you hear me? And now I find that where I am right now, we're going into year number 9. We're YouTubing. We're in 54 markets and growing. And it's just that time. It's just that time. I'm honored that I put in the time so that you all can learn. I'm not making any money. My staff is volunteer and they're extraordinary. Ben Artis, who is my producer, and he's been with me from the beginning. And again, these are top-notch people. I'm honored with the DATV affiliation. They have been in public television for 40 plus years, I believe. But today's show, without a lot of fanfare, but it is a part of your road to knowledge, is the power of credit. Yeah, I'm going to talk about credit because credit drives this country, and actually credit drives the world. People are not new to the concept of evaluating another person's ability to finance a deal, to provide necessary protection. All of these things have to deal with risk. And because risk says, I don't know you, you don't know me, but we're going to buy insurance to make sure that if something goes bad, I don't lose everything, and neither do you. These are things that evolved out of an understanding of credit. When people didn't have money to pay for shiploads of cargo, people would lend them money. Exactly, lend them money to finance the trip from Europe to the United States for different cargoes. And again, that was based upon a determination by a party that did not know the other party in many cases, that you represent a good credit risk. I can be comfortable in assuming that you will pay me my money back. Well, fast forward, we are still looking at credit. We're still doing credit. It is primary in understanding how things are going to happen in your financial life. But despite all of the emphasis on credit, so few people really understand what it means, how it impacts on you and your family, and how you can begin to take the steps to get your credit in a place where a stranger can look at your profile and conclude that you are going to honor the commitment you've entered into. Straight out, credit is always contractual, okay? It's not a handshake. It's written. And whether you use a credit card, there's a statement that shows the terms of the contract. Whether you purchase a car and you have a title with a lien with the bank, states the terms of the contract. Whether you're doing an installment purchase of furniture or other things, it's going to be by contract. And whether you purchase a home or an investment property, again, it's going to be by contract unless you're purchasing the home cash, unless you're buying the car cash, unless you're buying your furniture and other assets cash. Then there's no question of risk because you paid the money. But anytime there is lending involved and where you do not have the money, then there is going to be the issue of, do you represent a person that I can count on contractually, legally, to pay me back? And sad to say, because we have not been taught properly what credit can and cannot do, many people today suffer horribly because bad credit means I can't trust you to pay me, means you're going to pay an extremely high rate of interest. And interest is simply the cost of money based upon your character. Because ultimately, the story of credit is about the story of your character and whether you can be trusted
with a stranger lending you money and knowing that they're going to get their money back. It can influence, and it does influence on a daily basis, the interest rate or the cost of money that you're going to pay on all your loans. And even if it's a family loan, it should be by contract. So there's no lack of clarity as far as repayment. A lot of families enter into lending money to help Bubba get his business started, but nobody puts anything in writing. And then when Bubba does not honor the terms of the agreement, which is, man, I told you you could have my money for 6 months and then I got to pay it back. Well, Bubba wasn't clear because there was nothing in writing that was very clear about terms and basis. And you can get yourself into a whole lot of mess over this type of thing. The lending industry, banking, insurance, oh yes, are into evaluating your credit. Insurance companies run your credit report before they quote you rates or even assume that they will cover you. Why? Because don't ask me, the data suggests that people that have poor credit may have more incidences of accidents in cars and vehicles, may have more incidences of calamities in their home that are costing insurance companies. Again, credit invades every aspect of our life. And that's why I want you to pay special attention to the information I'm giving you. I have been in banking for 40 plus years. My background is I purchased banks for clients. That's correct. I invested in banks. I loaned money to banks. And banks have to be credit worthy. Not all banks are stable. Yes, indeed. They're not all stable. As we speak, you're getting ready to see what I'm talking about. A lot of them are into investments that are not good, are making loans to people that are not good. And that bank is not going to make it. And if you're involved with that bank in terms of deposits, please don't talk to me about the FDIC, because in the state of Ohio, we had several situations where people eventually got their money 5 years later. That's not working. So you need to be aware that it's not cut and dry, but credit and the evaluation of character, your willingness to pay your debts on time, your willingness to have job stability, to have life stability. I'm telling you now, I firmly believe that banks, and it's not legal, but I believe they do it, if you have been married and divorced, one of the questions is going to be, are you current on your child support? If you don't pay child support, you're out. Your credit rating is terrible. Why? Because the ability to pay the court-ordered mandate for your children, those are your children, and you don't honor it, you'd rather go to jail rather than pay. Oh, and she doesn't need the money. That's not your call. The courts have said you pay, and by you not honoring the court, you have dishonored yourself, and the penalty is severe. It's in terms of your credit suitability. Child support is a no-no. It's also a no-no in terms of most jobs today, and certainly in my industry, when it's a part of their vetting you, if you don't pay, they're not gonna hire. Nobody wants to get caught up in that, and it speaks very poorly of your character. Now, unfortunately, the same thing appears to apply for people that are ex-felons. Again, the issue of credibility and character. Although I do know today that I have seen a relaxing of standards for credit cards when you have secure credit cards, but on that app, many times they'll ask if you have committed a misdemeanor or a felony. You say, why do they need to know that? Because they're making credit decisions. Have you filed bankruptcy? Why? Because bankruptcy means that you did not pay bills on time, or you got in arrears or medical. Again, that's a 10-year situation, and it's tough. So I'm trying to give you a backdrop, not to frighten you. The world of finance is based on information, not fear. The more information you have at your disposal, the better you will be able to maneuver rough waters. Because I don't care who you are, all of us from time to time, including myself, the money lady, we've had things happen. You can find yourself in trouble because of medical bills, or because of job loss, or because commissions didn't come in the way you projected, or because your marriage was causing stress and you weren't as productive as you should have been, or on and on and on. Because life, ladies and gentlemen, life is not predictable, nor is life fair. Anybody want to argue that point with me? Call me after the show. I will tell all of you. It doesn't matter whether you're rich or whether you're poor. It doesn't matter whether you're living on your parents' trust assets. That's a blessing. Your parents set up trust to make sure you could live well. But the reality is that life is not guaranteed. If you want a case study right now, look at Ukraine. Okay? Who would have thought? I mean, come on. Who would have thought you're going around, you're going to school, your kids going to school, you're working, you're doing this, blah, 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 blah. And all of a sudden, you don't have a place to live. Your community is blown to kingdom come, and you're on the run with whatever you got on your back and your kids and the doggy or the kitty. That's life. What's their credit like? Believe me, it's not going to be good for a long time, and it has nothing to do with their credit and their honor. It has to deal with the politics. They were impacted. So when I say that life is not guaranteed to be smooth, I mean it. So the better informed you are, the better you can prepare. And that's why my last segment was about your budget, getting on a budget, putting at least a year's worth of income in some kind of a savings apparatus. I didn't say investing, I said savings, so that if something comes crazy, you can balance, okay? You can balance a little bit, all right? I'm just saying that. Maybe the old people had it right. Maybe they need to put a lockbox in under a tree or something. But my point is that credit drives the world, not just your personal situation. But the more you know about it, the better prepared you will be in terms of financial success. The power of credit is real, and it impacts on you and I every single day. Interest rates, which is a cost of money. You don't have cash, you got to borrow. Somebody's going to have to do a credit evaluation to determine what kind of credit you have and what kind of credit you would be extended. It will influence home purchases, the kind of home you will get, affordability, okay, or car. We can do buy here, pay here lots for people that don't have any credit, and they'll tell you if you're late a day, we're taking your car. Or you can have people that can do leases that have pristine credit, and they can engage in leases. But it is driving everything today. And I'm going to tell you, having lived in China, when I was over there, they did not allow their people to have credit cards. They forced them to save for whatever they wanted. And I am here to tell you, when you see what an economy looks like with no credit and people having wonderful cars and everything else because they saved. Now, the plus, and I have to say the advantage, is a communist country. They don't pay for housing. Their food costs are controlled. They don't have to pay for a lot of stuff we have to pay for. Okay, so I know I'm not saying it's a good or bad. I'm just presenting it to you as information you need to be aware of. The Chinese government did not allow their population to have credit cards, period. They did not support it. Now, in Hong Kong, which was British controlled, foreigners used credit cards to buy and sell stuff because of the banking there. But in mainland China, that was not the case. So let's get on into the crux of this program today. Again, I'm delighted to be here with you to talk about credit as a powerful information tool for you to begin to look at. The first thing you want to do before you do anything else is go to annualcreditreport.com. annualcreditreport.com. And you can pull up on internet right now at no charge your payment and reporting history on all three reporting agencies. That's Experian. That is, I'm drawing a blank right now, but there are three of them that will allow you to look at your payment history, to see what your collections are, if any, to see if there's any negative reporting. They track where you live. You'll see that information. They track where you work. If they can, you have that information as well. I'm going to recommend the annualcreditreport.com as a basic go-to. It's available every year, free. And you should take advantage of it to make sure that if there are any errors, you can correct them. Information that's not corrected by law has to be removed, okay? Requires you to send a letter and say no way and have that stuff challenged and removed. You don't have to pay a credit repair company to do that type of thing. If these are legitimate errors, things can be removed. That is the law. Things can be challenged. If creditors don't respond, the stuff has to be removed. But if you're lazy, pay somebody else, and maybe they can give you better results. I will tell you on federal items, including bankruptcies, including tax liens, student loan late pays. Those things are federal, and I don't know of anybody who has successfully removed legitimate bankruptcies. There's a 10-year look back, and if you're in that 10-year period, it's going to show there. Now, there are some of you in the industry that will say, Ms. Graves, I can do this, I can do that. And I will say to you, you be careful about your representations with people, because when you cannot get these federal items off, the student loans that went into default, federal, bankruptcies, 713, right there for everybody to look at. Public information. Can you get them removed? I don't know of anybody that's been able to get them off and keep them off, because the next reporting cycle they're going to come back on because they're federal. Okay? So, annualcreditreport.com is where you want to begin. Pull all three reporting agencies. See what they say about you. Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion are the three big boys. Now let's talk about FICO, which is the Fair Isaac reporting score, which is, again, the one that I am most familiar with coming out of banking. And also, please be aware, and I'm not saying this to speak poorly of any of the credit gathering services outside of these three and FICO, like Credit Sesame and Credit Karma, all those scores are not going to be the same as your banking scores. Why? Because they don't have access to all the algorithms that are used in computing your credit score. If you want to find your credit score, talk to your banker and find out if he or she can pull a credit report for you. But with the score, with Annual Credit Report, it's the information, it's not the score. It has all of the activity you've had. And that's important for making corrections. It's also important if you have late pays, how far along was it? Will the creditor challenge the late pay? I don't know, okay? I'm just saying to you that It can happen, and you do have recourse. Now, when I started in banking, we pulled credit reports, but you didn't have access to them. And I think that was shameful, that we all knew your business, but you didn't. And at the point you went to try to buy a car or get a home loan, you found that you had dings, we called them ding, 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 dings on your report that would impact on your ability to get financing. And you couldn't even fight it because you didn't have access to it unless the bank was willing to give you a copy, which was at their discretion. Well, boy, have things changed. And yes, lawsuits can make a difference in reception. And as a sidebar, and I don't want to get into that on this show, but somebody needs to deal with the fact that insurance carriers and everybody else has access to your medical information. I'm not talking about my chart. I'm talking about the MIB, Medical Information Bureau, that insurance companies get and other agencies that are extending insurance and healthcare provisions to you. I think that information needs to be public. I think it needs to be more than my chart. I think it needs to be public in the same way that in our banking industry, credit is now public, and you have the right to it every year. So let's get into FICO, Fair Isaac Corporation, which is actually the big boy for scores. They're called FICO scores, and they are a compilation of all kinds of algorithms. They're called FICO scores, and they generally range from 300 to 850. There are 5 levels of credit scores on the FICO score scale. Exceptional. A score of 800 or more puts you in the highest FICO credit score range. Failing anywhere in the exceptional, if you fall in any way in the exceptional category, you will qualify. Thank you, Ben. I appreciate that. For most credit card offers, as long as you meet other application offers. Now, let me say here quickly, it is an algorithm, which is they're looking at more than just your payment history. They're looking at your job stability. They're looking at your past activity with credit usage. They're looking for people that fall in the category of it's not a problem. These people represent honorable, credible people. They paid their bills. They represent stability. They pay their car bills. These are all algorithms that tell Fair Isaac the kind of personality and credit risk you represent. Again, a score of 800 or above. Let's go back to the chart, Ben, if you don't mind. Represent the very best of the best. Now, to your right, you'll see very good. The very good range usually means you have a credit score of 744 to 799. People in this range are considered dependable borrowers. That's very good, okay? The key thing with very good and exceptional with most people, it just could mean that you don't have a home, you're a renter. Home ownership tends to suggest that you have much more stability, and they weigh it heavily. So that's very good. Now the next category, if we can go back to the chart, is good. If your score is between 670 and 739, you'll fall into the good range. This means you're considered dependable, but you may have had a late payment in the past, carry higher debt levels, or you may not have a long credit history. What's a long credit history? 3 years or more of perfect pay. No late pays, no bills, no collections, definitely no federal items, okay? No child support issues. Yeah, they do report. This would be in the good category. Can you still get good rates with good credit? Yes, you can, but you're not going to get the best, but you'll still have good rates. Fair. A credit score of 580 to 669 means you're in the fair range. You likely made a payment that was 30 days late or more. You carry high debt loads, and this means you won't be eligible for the best interest rates. Now let's talk about a late payment. With most creditors, if you have made a late payment a couple of days late, you can call them and you can have that late payment charge dropped. And is that important? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Many of our lifestyles are such where people just don't keep up with stuff. And they get back in town and, oh my gosh, I got to pay this, I got to pay that. You may want to consider doing automated payments just for the minimum. You can always pay more, but at least you won't incur a late payment fee. Big retailers are big on those late payment fees, and you will look up and you will be owing as much in late payment fees as the actual loan itself. Poor credit. When you have defaulted on loans or frequently pay your bills more than a month late, your credit score is likely to be poor, okay? And you may not qualify for a credit card or loan if you apply. So we have exceptional, which is a score of 800 or above, which is the highest you can get, 8 to 850. Very good, which is 744 to 799. Good, which is 670 to 739. Fair, which is 580 to 669. And anything less than 580 is considered poor. Can you change these scores? Yeah, you can. Longevity, being consistent, paying as agreed, not defaulting on your debt, okay? How to stay on top? Creditors actually are looking for people with a good credit score and a long history of making their credit card and other loan payments on time. Now, what if you say, but I don't like credit cards? This show is not about your emotional experience. This is about setting you in a position where if you do need money, you can get it. So, how do you do this? Well, the first thing you can do if you have bad credit or you coming out of bankruptcy or other bad things, the first thing you want to do is get a secured credit card. Now, what is a secured credit card? It is money that you put in a bank and you borrow against it through your credit card. The most popular secured credit card today is Capital One. They will lend you dollar for dollar. So if you have $1,000, your credit card line is $1,000. Basically, you're spending your own money, okay? It's a special type of card. It is called a secured credit card. Why do I advocate secured credit cards for people trying to start over? Is because once you have developed a 12-month payment history on time, you will find that your score has, voila, started to go up. If you've paid off all of your collection items, making sure you've satisfied them, you will find that these things will impact positively on you. People do not want you out of the system. They just want you in the system on their terms, which is we don't know you, and that's why the interest rate on a regular card is higher than what you're going to get at a credit union, because a credit union knows you, and they're willing to give you an advantage on your card. The real big world out here, they don't know you, but they can read a story based on your history, and today they can pull up your criminal history, they can pull up your driving history, whether you have DUIs going, that type of thing. All that paints a picture, okay? Whether you have a history of writing bad checks. Yeah, there's no forgiveness. Do not believe the advertising, which is if you've overdrawn your account, we're willing to give you some days for forgiveness. Yeah, they are, but they also make note to the account that you did it. Okay? And that impacts on their willingness to extend credit to you. I'm serious. It's no simple way up out of this, but I am telling you, the very first thing you do is get your annual credit report, which is free. Find out what it's reporting on you, make any corrections you need to make, and then send it back to them. And then check them. Follow up and check them and make sure those changes have been made. Letters of explanation, that all goes to those credit reporting agencies. Okay? It does not go to your creditor. It goes to the reporting agency who compiles the information that your creditor provides them. So you do want things to be accurate and you want things to be up to date. If you are divorced, you need to make sure that that credit is not commingling with your former spouse. If that's a part of the divorce decree, which is what's mine is mine and what's yours is yours, that needs to be factored in when you look at joint accounts. Okay, you cannot have joint accounts and you're divorced. You can, but why? You got to build your own way back, okay? And that means you got to establish credit in your own name. Right, male and female. You got to have your own stuff. And there is a way that you do that. Particularly if you have good credit, then you can separately begin to build your own credit with your own accounts. Remove them as a co-signer, as a co-borrower, all of those kinds of things. You're going to have to get control over that. So it's important to understand that you monitor your credit report and you want to stay in the right credit report range. And again, if you have signed up for a service or to check your credit score, or if you're provided your credit score by a lender, you'll know where you stand. And what you know about your score, you can find out where you fall on this credit score chart that I have just disclosed to you. This is probably, next to your budget, the second most important thing you're going to ever do. Now, for some people that don't believe in credit and pay everything cash, my goodness gracious, the Chinese model is absolutely wonderful, but this is a country and a society that revolves around consumers being in debt. They know full well that you don't have enough money to pay all of your debts unless you have truly been very conservative and have managed your money very carefully. That is not the American worker. Most people buy, shop, spend money because we are programmed. Hello, that's what television is about. Okay? We're programmed to do it now and do it on a card. The days of layaway, Kmart, Zayre, all those companies that would allow you to lay away clothing for school starting or tire, all that's gone. Now it's about the little piece of plastic. But mind you well, that little piece of plastic comes with some very real conditions. One of them being, don't pay late. Not only are you going to get dinged on your credit bureau, but you're going to pay a stiff fee, $40 for many of them. The other thing is that unless you are a prime candidate and have a good card, and there are some excellent cards out here that give you cash rebates and all that, okay, if you use them because they want the business. And for a lot of us, it's just convenient. You drive, you buy gas, you use that rewards card. But you be careful because the whole nature of credit and credit cards is based on the documented behavior of consumers, which says people do not pay their card off at the end of the month. They don't. They carry it over and the bank begins to make money. Upwards of 26%, and with the Fed going the way they're going, I predict credit card rates are going to get even higher. Do you want to pay 26 cents on every dollar that you buy or spend? Then pay it off before the due date. Just pay it off and do it judiciously. Don't do it as something that is a force. 26 cents on a dollar is a lot to pay for the privilege of buying something. And you'd have to do such a deep, deep discount in your purchase to justify that kind of interest. And before you say, well, why do they charge so much? It is because your profile is being merged in with the profile of millions of people. And therefore, the higher rate is simply the maximum based upon the profile that's allowed. Okay, so you're merged in with everybody else. Now, as you go up the food chain and get better and better and better rates and terms, you will find that it's not as, I'm strangling. But I can't say anything, and I'm not going to lie. I cannot say anything incredibly positive about credit cards because I've seen the devastation, destruction they've caused. Some people can't stop spending, period. And if that's you, take a number. You're with millions of people. This whole country is credit driven. We're in debt, over $40 trillion. We borrow to pay for things that we can't pay for. We print money and we go into more debt. And then we whine about China, and then we whine about all this money, and I'm like, stop printing money. Tax the American people and let us get out of debt, okay? Let us live in a society that is based upon honorable people that believe in what's on our dollar bill, which is in God we trust. Because right now, with all the debt we have, from spending above our means, which is what credit card debt does, you're financing a lifestyle that's above your means because you can't pay it off in 30 days. Not good. Not good. Make a resolution that you understand and respect as a result of this broadcast the power of credit and why it is not a wise thing to do. If you have credit cards that charge no annual fee, none, put them in a drawer for a rainy day. Okay? Put them in a drawer. You may need the money in a crisis, a funeral, something like that. For many, they're using it to live on right now, and that's what the Fed says because people are struggling hard. And particularly working people, they're struggling and they're using credit cards to finance hotel stays, to finance gasoline, to finance food. I mean, think about that, to have to use a credit card because you'll go hungry unless you don't. That is the face of America for so many people today, and it's just so sorrowful from where I sit because when you can't pay that credit card, they're going to turn on the collection apparatus, which banks all have collection people in-house or they outsource it. But the bottom line is to harass you. Legally, they have the right to do it. You can't opt out on a debt that you owe. You can tell them the times to call you, but you can't tell them, I don't want to talk to you because you signed a contract to pay the debt. Okay, so work something out. I pray that this is not impacting a lot of you because collection agencies are just horrible. But they're in business to get the bank's money that you borrowed and could not, for whatever reason, pay back. And it's their job to get the money back or else sue you in court and get your wages garnished, or begin to proceed with, seizure, take your car, take the furniture, take the tires, take whatever belongs to the bank, and move on. And you sit there and like, this is just horrible. Well, yes, it is. But America is not obligated to teach you. I feel obligated because you don't know And morally, that's where I'm coming from. But be aware that nobody in this country is obligated to teach you how this works, the good and the bad. Now, when is a credit card appropriate to use? If you are buying furniture under a 12-month repayment with no interest, but you have to pay it back in full in the 12 months, I would say that's something that's worthy of consideration. But remember, if you do not pay that entire debt off in the period that's stipulated by contract, you sign a document, then the interest rate goes right through the roof, and you're going to wind up paying an extraordinarily high interest rate on that purchase because you didn't pay it off within the period defined. Same thing as 90 days, same as cash. Same thing. If you don't pay it off in 90 days, you're going to be ratcheted up to the market rate. And frankly, that's not going to make you happy. So the only time I would suggest that you get into something like that is if you're trying to rebuild your credit, and a lot of them will issue you a credit card against that debt, and you pay the credit card account. But rest assured, if that account is not paid off, you are going to be facing a stiff bill, okay? The big retailers, I won't drop their names, they do it all the time for washing machines, for refrigerators, for appliances, for furniture, okay? They do stoves. They do it because it allows them to book business and to make money. It gives you the freedom to get what you want, and you're under contract, and if you don't meet the terms, you're going to be facing a stiff repayment schedule that's going to make you wonder why you did that. So I'm saying to you, proceed with care, because that's how they make their livelihood. Most people that go into an appliance store, doesn't matter who you patronize, do not have $2,000 to plop down on a washer and a dryer. Yeah, even an inexpensive unit. Is there such a name today for a washer and a dryer? That's $1,000. Most people don't have that kind of money available. They haven't budgeted, and their washer went out, and they don't know what to do. And frankly, I understand what that feels like. I raise children, and children require a lot of washing of clothes and drying, but I'm telling you now that if you go to get a new appliance under a 90-day, same as cash, or special financing deal, that's what you got facing you, okay? Not good, not good. Now, are there any exceptions to the rule? I don't know any. You can go and buy a used appliance and pray that it lasts, okay? There's some very good used appliances out here sold by private individuals who want to upgrade. But just recognize there's no warranty, there are no guarantees, but then you're not paying $2,000. So maybe you can work it out, okay? Or maybe you can just use the laundromat, the public laundromat, until things get better for you and your family, okay? Those are your options. Credit cards were never designed to work for you. They were designed to make it easy for the bank to make money on items that are grossly overpriced. I mean, I learned that in China. At the point it's $1 to make gym shoes that they turn around and put a name on, a logo on, and charge $200. That is robbery. But yet people like the feeling, because it make me feel good to be bouncing around in these shoes. I'm like, is it going to make you feel good when the bill comes? Because the bill is going to come. Right. Because this is America. And they have the right to make profit, even if you can't figure out why. Okay? So that's the way that works. And I personally, I don't do debt. I did it with kids. I just don't do debt. I don't like it, but I do have access should I need it. I have credit cards in the drawer, and they're available if I need it. But for the majority of us, that is not the world you want to get into at all. I just wanted to share with you that credit is powerful, and paying your debt is powerful. And actually, it's un-American to pay your debt, because if you pay your debt, how's anybody going to make any money? Well, the good old-fashioned way. Work for it. Okay? What's wrong with that? So I hope you've enjoyed today's segment of the power of credit. And I hope you now know what this looks like. And you may want to pull out the statements that you got when you got your credit cards, because they do send you a contract. Yeah, by your accepting that card, you've agreed to the contract terms, which include late payments, interest rate, how they can raise rates when they want, and the fact that they report all this to the credit bureau. But you can fight back. To recap, get a copy of your annual credit report. Make changes where there are changes required. Respond back to the agencies promptly with the information. That's the first thing. The second thing, if you've got bad credit, get a secured credit card out of your own money and begin to rebuild. Thirdly, if you're late on your child support, I can help you, because it's a federal debt. You're in trouble along with bankruptcy and student loans, okay, unless you're under a forgiveness plan. They're going to get you. And again, recognize in closing that all they're trying to make sure is that you pay them what you borrowed. Okay? You repay what you borrowed, that you be a person of good reputation, and that you pay your bills on time as agreed. No game. They lent you the money in good faith. Pay them back. That's all I can say. All right? You take care. I hope you've enjoyed this session and this segment. Hope you've learned some things that can help you. Let me know. Just email me, mygraves@gmail. That's all, mygraves@gmail. Let me know what you think, and I appreciate being able to have the opportunity to share. And we'll talk soon. God bless you all. Take care. Bye-bye.